All right, let's go ahead and get started with our Chapter 3 lecture on Mexican Texas, 1821 to 1836. In 1821, Mexico freed itself from Spanish rule and began the process of creating its own government. Liberals desired a republic based on the precepts of the Enlightenment, but conservatives took the upper hand, and Agustin de Iturbide established himself as emperor. A young military commander named Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna entered Mexico's political arena for the first time, denounced Iturbide, and eventually removed him from power in March 1823. This was the beginning of endless problems for Mexico. An impresario was an immigration agent, or a person who had been granted the right to settle on land in exchange for recruiting settlers. A filibuster was someone who illegally settled. Filibuster is Spanish for pirate or freebooter. The first American filibuster, Philip Nolan, began his forays into Texas to capture wild horses. Governor Manuel Munoz was aware of Nolan's illegal roundup operations, but let it continue unabated for several years. Filibuster Dr. James Long attempted to wrest Texas from Mexico in 1819, and Hayden Edwards proclaimed his Fredonian Republic in 1826. Overall, though, it was Mexico's decision to continue with Spain's colonization program that spelled the beginning of the end for Mexican Texas. Anglo-Americans in Texas soon outnumbered Tejanos due to several impresarios who, along with Stephen F. Austin, received generous land allotments for locating set numbers of families in Texas. Between 1821 and 1835, a total of 41 impresario contracts were signed, permitting some 13,500 families, mostly Anglo-Americans, to come to Texas. Attempts were made to stem the flood of Anglo-Americans to Texas. The law of April 6, 1830 is a prime example. Many liken this law to the Stamp Act, which was the catalyst for the American Revolution. The law was initiated by Lucas Alameda y Escalada, Mexican Minister of Foreign Relations, and was designed to stop the flood of immigration from the U.S. The law came as a result of Manuel de Mira y Tirian's recommendations. The law caused discontent among Anglos and Tejanos. The Peace Party, headed by Stephen F. Austin, preferred political solutions to the settlers' grievances. He consistently reminded the colonists of the gratitudes they owed Mexico. Eventually, however, the Liberals won the upper hand as they expressed grievances towards the severe limits on immigration imposed by the law of April 6, 1830, and the naming of Saltillo as capital for the joint state of Coahuila and Tejas. Other Tejanos who sided with the Liberals included José Antonio Navarro and his uncle José Francisco Ruiz. Both later became the only two Tejano signees to the Texas Declaration of Independence. Juan N. Seguin and his father, Erasimo Seguin, and José María Balmaceda, all leading citizens of Bejar, who saw the economic realities and that the Anglo-Americans would and the annexation of the United States would give to the future development of Texas. To further complicate the situation, immigrants continued arriving illegally during the early 1830s. The law of April 6, 1830 proved ineffective, and the Indian depredations continued unabated. The Mexican president, Vincent Guerrero, issued a directive abolishing slavery throughout the country prior to the enactment of the law of April 6, 1830, but rescinded the directive's impact in regard to Texas. Anglo and even Tejano leaders, José Antonio Navarro, argued that the development of the province of Texas depended on slave labor. By 1836, the number of slaves in Texas numbered about 5,000, most of who were located in the productive river valley adjacent to the Brazos, Colorado, and Trinity rivers. Anglos continued populating the region, and the number of towns in Texas increased from 3 in 1821 to 21 in 1835. Farmsteads and agricultural production grew, and more educational opportunities were provided in the 1820s and 1830s, mostly by religious groups such as the Methodist Foreign Missions and Baptists. Neglected by the Catholic Church, Anglo settlers not only ignored the prohibition on slavery, but their agreement to observe Catholic practices as well. They defended themselves by organizing local militias and other volunteer companies authorized by the Mexican government as alternatives to standing armies that it could ill afford. In the 1820s and 1830s, Tejano society continued to be divided between a small elite of government bureaucrats and prominent merchants and ranching families on one hand, and a semi-subsistence farmers or commoners on the other. Most Tejanos lived in the older urban settlements established in the 18th century. Like their Anglo peers, they displayed their independence from the Catholic Church by refusing to pay fees to support Texas Catholicism. The Tejano militia developed efficient cavalry units that, unlike the Anglo volunteer companies, pursued an offensive strategy against the Indians. By 1820, the Indian people of Texas had been decimated by war and disease and displaced from their native lands. Tribal Coatecans had melted into the local population during missionization. The Quanquas numbered less than 800 persons, while the Caddos, weakened by alcoholism and loss of land to Anglo impresarios, as well as other migrating native peoples like the Cherokees, numbered fewer than 300 families. By 1830, Mexico was moving towards centralism. Santa Anna removed his acting president, Valentina Gomez Ferraris, from power. He abolished both the liberal Federalist Constitution of 1824 and the new Congress composed of conservatives and others supportive of the military and the Catholic Church. He also dissolved all state legislatures, turning the former states into military departments. These developments further angered the liberal faction in Texas. 15 years after pledging their loyalty to Mexico, conforming to Mexican traditions by becoming Catholic and learning to speak Spanish, liberty-loving men, both Anglos and Tejano, revolted against Mexican autocratic rule. With the fall of the Alamo and Goliad, including the loss of many lives, Santa Anna was defeated at San Jacinto in an 18-minute battle that cost Mexico its hold on Texas. Historians suggest additional factors that spurred the Texas Revolution, including financial motivations, land speculation, and the protection of recently achieved economic gains. Anglo contempt for Mexico's rule and viewing Mexicans as a politically and culturally inferior people living under an unsustainable and tumultuous government. Each interpretation, including a very recent argument for slavery as a cause of conflict, has some validity.